Hello everybody and welcome to another channel update video. As you may remember, not too long ago, it's been roughly 2 weeks, I posted a video and a link to a poll to help me decide what game or games to play once I'm done with Mass Effect Andromeda. And since I'm slowly approaching the end of that game, I can't say for certain how long it's going to take, but I would be very surprised if it's going to be longer than 2 weeks. So I figured that I finally have to decide what to do next. And yeah, a lot of people voted in the poll. A lot of people gave me feedback on that video and commented and gave me suggestions for more games. And I wrote them down for reference. However, like I said, for the time being, I want to focus on the games of my original list. And as you can see, I got a bunch of votes. This, by the way, is not the number of people that voted. I mean, this is more than I have subscribers. This is the number of votes, and since the poll was multiple choice, you could vote for more than one game, and every vote for every game is one vote, which explains the number. And that being said, I do realize that a poll like this is not exact science. I mean, I have enabled IP duplication checking, but it's not rocket science to circumvent that. As a matter of fact, I have been watching the poll, especially during the first 24 hours, and let's just say I noticed some suspicious activity for a bunch of games, actually. So I guess the exact order of this ranking should be taken with a grain of salt. But as I said in my initial video, it was never about picking like one winner, but just to give me a general trend, a general idea of what you would like to see. I mean, this isn't the presidential election, right? This is just a poll to help me decide what games to play. So I didn't actually expect that people would bother so much that they would take that effort, but apparently some people did. So I was actually a bit surprised by that. But it's what it is, and I think the results are still useful to give me a general idea of, you know, how the interest in those games is. And I have been sitting down for like 2 hours and I have been trying to create a schedule for the next 5 months. And I mean, looking at the results, my first takeaway was that my initial suspicion that there is not one clear favorite was definitely right, because there is a very broad spread of votes. I mean, the amount of votes for, especially in the middle field, they're all pretty close to each other, as you can see. So I guess my interpretation of that is that your interests are pretty diverse. So maybe I should diversify my channel as well. So my first decision is that I will try the 2-game schedule that I spoke about. So I will play 2 games on alternating days for now. It's still only 1 episode per day, as I explained. So you're not getting 2 episodes per day. You don't have to worry about not being able to catch up with all the videos that I, upload. I don't have the time to record them, so it's still going to be the same amount of content. And for the time being, I will try an alternating schedule. I know there are other ways how I could, schedule them, like 1 game with 4 days per week and the other one 3 days per week. But I will start with an alternating schedule, and I can still adjust that later if I want to. So for once, I'm going to play 2 games at a time. And secondly, I think I will not commit to an entire franchise or series for now. In the past, I played a trilogy and I played all the games in a row, and it usually took about a year to finish all the games, like for Dragon Age and for Mass Effect and for The Witcher. So if you were not interested in that particular franchise, you basically couldn't watch my channel for almost a year. And I intend to change that. by, playing 2 games, by playing shorter games, and by rotating games a bit more. So instead of playing like several games of the same franchise in a row, I will play like the first part and then maybe play a different game and then maybe play the sequel to, the first game and so on. So overall you should get more games and a greater variety of games. So hopefully you will be able to watch at least some of them, if not, if you can't watch or want to watch all of them. And I have been creating a schedule for the next roughly 5 months, focusing on the games that ended up in the upper half of the poll. However, if you really had your heart set on one of the games that ended at the bottom of the poll, don't be too disappointed. Just because they're at the bottom of the list doesn't mean that I will never ever play them. I mean, this already is a short list, so the games are only here because they have been recommended a lot. If time permits, I will probably play them all eventually, but for now I want to focus on the games on top of the list. And I have been making some calculations. Specifically, I wanted to make some estimations how long it's going to be, how long I'm going to need to finish any given game. And I have been using the site that I mentioned last video, howlongtobeat.com, which is basically a database where you can enter how long you needed to play a certain game. As you can see, there are different categories: main story, main plus extra, completionist. And long story short, I made some comparisons and calculations, and I found out that for the most part my Let's Plays tend to be about as long as the main plus extra stat from that site. I mean, I do play completionist, but I edit out stuff that is repetitive or, inventory management or running around. So basically I end up with the main plus extra. So it kind of makes sense that, the time would be similar. Also, I do believe that the definition of completionist on that site involves getting all the achievements, which I don't do. And it can increase your playtime, obviously. So if I'm going to assume that for all the games on my poll I need, approximately the time that is given on that site for this figure, then I end up with this list. And as you can see, we have anything from 8 hours to 103 hours. But most of them are actually like shorter games, which is, anything below 20 hours, or medium-sized games, which is anything below 50 hours. And as I said, if I'm going to try a 2-game schedule, I probably should stay away from the really long games. But as it happens, most of the long games actually ended up at the bottom of the poll, while the games at the top of the poll are shorter or medium-sized lengths. So that actually made it easy for me to pick some of them and then combine them in a way that gives you a good diversity and not 2 games at a time that are too similar. So, long story short, this is the schedule that I came up with. So we basically have 2 slots of games, slot A and slot B, and they will alternate from day to day. And in slot A, I would like to start with Deus Ex Human Revolution, which is not the very first Deus Ex game, but most people in the comments said that it's okay to start with this one. And since the old one is pretty old, like almost 20 years, it may be a better start for me to try one of the more modern ones. And it's actually sort of a prequel, I believe, so it plays earlier than the first game. So I don't know, it makes sense to me to start with Human Revolution, which would be estimated time of 32 hours. And then once I'm done with that game, slot A will be filled with Life is Strange. and I'm going to play all the episodes because, I mean, the episodes are pretty short. And altogether it would be 16 hours, so together this would be 48 hours. And assuming I stick to my current episode length, that would equal roughly 65 episodes together. So this is slot A, and slot B, which will alternate with slot A, will start with Hellblade, which is literally the shortest game of the series, with 8 hours, so it should be finished pretty quickly. And then it will, the slot will get filled with The Walking Dead Season 1, which is going to be roughly 13 hours. So by the time I finish The Walking Dead, I should still be playing Deus Ex in slot A. So after The Walking Dead, slot B is going to be filled with Assassin's Creed 2, the first game of the trilogy. And that would be about 30 hours if we include the DLC. So slot A added together is roughly 41 hours or 68 episodes. So if my calculations and my estimations are correct, both slots should end at roughly the same time, because they should be roughly the same length. And the idea is that, I'm starting with these 5 games, and once I'm done with them, I will, re-evaluate the situation. I will see, did I like the games? Did you like the games? Did they fit my channel? Do I want to continue to play any of them? Do I want to mix them up with other games from my list? So I don't know what's going to happen in 5 months, but I think this is a good schedule for the short term until then. And yeah, together it would be 133 episodes, which is about 4.5 months, but sometimes I may take a break, so I'm going to say 5 months. And as you can see, I try to make, the 2 slots different from each other. So I'm going to play Deus Ex alongside Hellblade, The Walking Dead, and the beginning of Assassin's Creed, and then Assassin's Creed along Life is Strange. So I have like a linear game played alongside a decision-based game, or I have an RPG played alongside an adventure game, sort of. And I don't know, I feel it's a good balance between different styles of games and different genres of games. So I hope you will find some of these games interesting and want to watch my Let's Play. And yeah, in 5 months we will look at it again and see what we want to do with that. Do we want to continue one of the series? Do we want to pick some other games from the list like Tomb Raider or whatever? Or do we want to go back to a 1-game schedule and maybe, start one of the longer games like Fallout or whatever? We will see, but this is my plan for the next 5 months. So yeah, I hope you find some games that you want to watch. I can't say when we're going to start with it, whenever Andromeda is finished. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you all for your feedback, for voting, for giving me further suggestions. And I hope I'm going to see you in my next episode of Andromeda, or whenever I start with the new schedule at the end of Andromeda. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you again next time.